Good morning.
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 I would like to call to order the September 9th, 2015 meeting of the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Will the Secretary call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Robbins will not be here today. Ms. Irvine.
Here.
Mr. Youngblood.
Here.
Dr. Sen.
Here.
Mr. Peterson.
Present.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Here.
And Chairman Silva.
Here.
We have a quorum with 6 members of the committee present.
Our first order of business today is the approval of the committee minutes of August 12, 2015. The minutes were previously distributed. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And the minutes need to reflect, Kevin pointed out, excuse me, that he participated via phone. So that will be inserted into the minutes. Mr. Irvine.
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood.
Yes.
Dr. Sen.
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales.
Yes.
Mr. Peterson.
Yes.
Chairman Silva.
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes as amended.
Our next order of business is the review of the finance report. Tom McCone, Acting CFO. Welcome.
Good morning, Directors. Tom McCone, Acting CFO. I'll be reviewing the July financial results, starting with system-generated revenues. As you can see from the results, we had a really strong fare and pass revenue for the month of July. Ridership was up 3.4% versus last year, leading to 1.4 million additional revenue versus budget. On the non-fare box side, again, we're expecting half the reduced fare subsidy, and we're sort of conservatively booking that right now, so that's lower than budget. In addition, we have lower non-fare box revenue due to the timing of the receipt of a non-capital grant. So the other categories like advertising and concessions and investment income continue to perform well versus budget. So the revenue total is basically flat to budget, but the important point to note there is the strong growth in fare and pass revenue in the month of July.
And how did we do it, okay? I mean, it was very good. What do you do right?
Yeah, so when we looked deeper into the trends, the first half of the month was particularly strong. We had a number of events where the CTA performed well. One was the 4th of July weekend, where you had Friday was the 3rd, and so you had a whole full weekend of the 4th of July. So that really promoted a lot of sort of, you'd say, tourists or sort of non-usual riders. We saw a lot of single-ride ticket sales, a lot of one-day pass sales there. You had the Grateful Dead concert, which generated a lot of ridership behind it. And then you had really good weather. You had really good weather throughout the Taste of Chicago. So the first half of the month was particularly strong. Rail performed very well, but bus also performed well. So that sort of carried us through the remainder of the month.
So we have the playbook.
Yes.
Good.
So you see here in the year-to-date results, the positive, the favorable July results help make up for some of what we saw in the first quarter of this year. So fare and pass revenue is coming back closer to budget. The non-fare box totals and the reduced fare subsidy, consistent with the trends that we looked at previously. Again, the reduced fare subsidy, the loss of that or the loss of half of that is responsible for the negative to budget revenue total so far this year. On the expenses side, labor continues to be positive to budget. Part of this is due to a better fringe rate, so we're seeing a better fringe rate, which is helping our labor expenses. Material is trending negative to budget. Overall, this negative is absorbed in some of the other categories, so overall on expenses, we're not concerned with the negative variance in material. Fuel is trending positive to budget. We expect that trend to continue as it has in the prior months. Power was positive to budget for the month of July. Part of that was the fact that we had a relatively mild July, didn't have the extreme heat, which really would have increased the power usage. Security services is relatively predictable in July. And other expenses, favorable to budget due to timing of some of the receipts and then also that non-capital grant expense that I mentioned earlier on the revenue side. So we didn't get the revenue, we also didn't have the expense, so they balance out in total. What you saw in the month is similar in the year to date. I'll just focus on the bottom line there. Total operating expenses, 7.5 million positive to budget. You saw on the other side the revenue was about 8.5 million negative to budget. So for the most part, we're on balance so far this year. The reduced fare subsidy has put a little bit of extra stress on us. We continue to monitor everything very closely to make sure that we can finish the year in a positive manner. And on the utility side, we've purchased the fuel and the power for the year, so we don't have any more risk or variability associated with those categories. And we're looking to make sure that we have that locked in so we have predictability for next year as well. That ends my presentation. Any questions?
Any questions?
Just a question, Tom. How we're locked into FY16 in terms of fuel through December of FY16?
So our current contract with our fuel provider expires in October. So we're looking to make sure that we lock in through October via our current contract and then put another contract in place to make sure that we can get those last 2 months as well. And per the board's authority, we have authority to lock up to 80% of our fuel purchase.
Any other questions?
No, the only other question, so we're locking in for FY16 at what price versus what we locked in for this year?
So for this year, we locked in at approximately $3 a gallon. For next year, the prices that we've been seeing and locking in at are about $2.05 a gallon. So we are anticipating some significant year-over-year savings in the fuel category.
Okay, great.
Any other questions?
Do you see the trend improving in August and September for the revenues?
So on the revenue side, we do have, obviously, August is finished. We have our ridership information, the revenue information. We're still getting the final numbers on it. We do expect the trend, perhaps not as strong as July, but we do expect a positive trend to continue in August. And then, I see no reason why we can't see that through the rest of the year, but obviously it depends on some externalities, weather and things like that as we finish out the year. So, but August right now is looking okay.
Any other questions? Very good July.
Yes.
Congratulations to everybody at CTA.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, thank you. Our next order of business is the review of an ordinance for fiscal year 2015-2019 capital improvement program and amending ordinance. Tom?
Good morning. Before you is an ordinance amending the approved 2015 to 2019 capital improvement program. This amendment adds $661.1 million in funding to CTA's official 5-year capital improvement program from a variety of sources. The funding comes from competitive federal Homeland Security grant funds, savings from the bond refinancing and debt reserves approved by the board last month, insurance settlement proceeds, federal congestion mitigation and air quality improvement grants, CTA bonds, and additional RTA bonds. The CTA received notice of award for several of the competitive grants recently, and the other additional funding will be used to further CTA's State of Good Repair program and Phase 1 of the Red Purple Modernization Project. Incorporating the funding into the CTA's official 5-year capital program will keep the projects and the funding on schedule. Upon board approval, the additional funds will become part of the CTA's 5-year capital improvement program totaling $3.1 billion. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Tom, is this the largest amount we've ever gotten from CMAP?
Yes, this is, so the congestion mitigation air quality grant, it is the largest amount that the CTA has ever received. It's also the largest amount that I believe CMAP is awarding in their 5-year program. So it's a nice positive for the CTA.
Any other questions? What's the formula, okay, to do this?
To get the funding?
Yeah.
I think it's having a solid application and working with our funding partners to show the commitment that the CTA has and everybody has to getting these projects done.
Very good. Let's keep it up.
Yeah.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the review of 3 ordinances. A lease of retail concession space located at 5800 North Cumberland Avenue, Chicago, Illinois Blue Line. a lease of retail concession space located at 150 West Congress Parkway, Chicago, Illinois. A lease of retail concession space located at 114 South Dearborn, Chicago. Carol Moore.
Morning.
Morning.
Carol Morey, your Chief Planning Officer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So the first three ordinances are for the lease of real estate concession spaces at Cumberland, LaSalle, and Monroe on the Blue Line. The lease for the Blue Line Cumberland Station is to Caffeinated Co. owned by Rena Panjawani. She's a new concessionaire to CTA, but gained experience working for the company owned by her parents, Panjawani Network Restaurants, which is an existing CTA concessionaire. She will operate a Dunkin' Donuts at this location. The initial rent will be $24,500 annually with a 3% annual escalation. The lease is for 10 years with 2 5-year options. The space was most recently leased to INS Illinois LP, which was basically a convenience store newsstand, which requested a termination in May of 2014. CTA received 4 bids for the space, and Caffeinated Co. was the highest bidder. The leases for Blue Line LaSalle and Blue Line Monroe are to Panjawani Network Restaurants. The LaSalle lease will have an initial rent of $9,100 annually with a 3% annual escalation. Again, for 10 years with 2 5-year options. A Dunkin' Donuts will be operated at this location. The space has been vacant since 2008. Panjawani Network tied with another bidder at $70 per square foot. However, Panjawani proposed significant infrastructure improvements to the site, including new lighting, ceiling work, and plumbing improvements, and also included new water service to this location at a total cost of $150,000. The other high bidder proposed improvements of only $40,000. The Monroe lease will have an initial rent of $10,800 with a 3% annual escalation for 10 years with 2 5-year options. The space will also be operated as a Dunkin' Donuts. The space was formerly leased to Young & Young, which requested a termination in September of 2014. 3 bidders tied for the high bid on the space. However, again, Panjawani proposed significant infrastructure improvements to the site, including new lighting, ceiling work, and plumbing improvements, which include, again, new water service to the location at a total cost of $275,000. One of the other high bidders proposed improvements of $40,000, and the second proposed no improvements. The total net present value of these 3 leases over the initial 10-year term is $431,068. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Yeah, Carol, I've got a question. So all 3 are along the blue line.
Yes.
Have we done any work as part of your new blue? Are these part of, because I'm looking at, they're coming in above the appraised value. I mean, these are very good leases, and I'm just trying to think, and they're doing the work in terms of the build out of the space, but have we done work along the tracks there that's increased ridership?
So we have seen increased ridership growth in this location, and in fact, Cumberland is part of the current Addison to Cumberland Stations project.
Okay.
And construction will start on that next year.
Okay. All right.
Excuse me, I have a question. So did you say the 5800 North Cumberland, that had been vacant since 2008?
No, that one, the Cumberland one, was most recently leased to INS Illinois, which was a convenience store. It was the LaSalle one, I believe, that
LaSalle.
had been vacant since 2008.
Why had it been vacant for so long?
So there were some issues with that space. In fact, there wasn't water service to the space. So this particular bidder is willing to pay to bring water service to the space. That formally made it more difficult to rent.
Okay, thank you.
Is there a timeline for them to complete these improvements?
Well, typically they receive a rent abatement for 90 days, and it's expected that the improvements will be completed within that period of time.
Any other questions?
Can I just have a comment?
No, ma'am, please, the meeting's going on. Thank you. And also, I just want to remind everybody to please, people came in later, please silence your cell phones. Thank you.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval? These 3 items, sorry.
So moved.
Second.
All Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property at 241 to 245 North Pulaski Road, Chicago. Carol?
Thank you. This parcel is contiguous to our West Shops facility, which is the facility where a lot of our trades are located. So our carpenters, our painters, our ironworkers, our track maintenance department is located here. And we have identified a need for additional property at this location to be used for laydown space for materials and storage for equipment. This property became available, and we negotiated a purchase price of $40,000. The property was appraised at $50,000. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Good job.
Yeah.
Any questions? Any questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Our next order of business is an ordinance authorizing a 3-year intergovernmental agreement with the county cook regarding Rosemont Station Transit Center. Carol?
So this ordinance is for an intergovernmental agreement with Cook County regarding the redevelopment of the Rosemont Transit Center. The Rosemont Transit Center includes a park and ride operated by CTA, a rail station on the Blue Line, as well as bus facilities that are primarily utilized by PACE. We operate the park and ride, which includes 798 spaces on land that's owned by Cook County, which is adjacent to the Blue Line station at Rosemont. Cook County would like to construct additional bus facilities for PACE at Rosemont to support increased service by PACE beginning in 2017. This increased service will be made possible due to a bus-on-shoulder program along the I-90 Jane Addams Expressway and new park and rides along I-90, which are being constructed by the Illinois Tollway to support PACE service in that corridor. So this is really an interagency project. The new facilities will require the use of space currently occupied by 26 park and ride spaces. PACE ridership accounts for about a third of weekday ridership at the Rosemont Blue Line station, and ridership at Rosemont is expected to increase with the increased PACE service. CTA operates no bus service to Rosemont. This agreement would terminate with a more comprehensive redevelopment plan by the county on the site, but the county has agreed that any redevelopment plan would maintain the same number of parking spaces. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Just a comment, I think it's a very good idea. The only question I have here is that, is this operated by, do we operate it ourselves, or is there a private vendor who operates this?
We have a private vendor, I think it's CPS Parking,
Okay. That
that
contract
operates,
is not
they operate all of our park and rides.
That contract is not affected by this?
No, it's not.
Any other questions? If there are no further questions, may I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So moved.
I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you, Carol. Our final order of business is the review of 8 purchase and sales award recommendations. We will start. Good morning, Helen.
Good morning.
We will start with contracts numbers A1. Any questions in A1? No question, let's
Oh, I just,
move.
one question, A1, Chairman.
Go ahead, please.
So how, do we have any of this equipment right now, the ballast machines, or are we renting them, or?
Good morning.
Morning.
Yes, at this time, we
Excuse
actually
me, please
have-
state your name, sir.
Pardon
Please
me?
state your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tom Dietrich,
That's fine.
okay. At this time, we do have 4 pieces of the ballast regulators.
So are we replacing them, or just augmenting them? or-
No, this is augmenting.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Any other questions for A? So let's move to B1 and B2. Any questions?
I have a question, Vito. It might be an extremely ignorant question. I was wondering why we are doing this track-based signals as opposed to, I asked you, as opposed to positive train control. President having come from Washington must have brought that pressure on.
Hi, Bob Whitman, Vice President Construction. I would say we actually do have a form of positive train control on our current system. So our signal system does act in that manner to stop a train if someone goes through the signal. So I would say that our current system does operate in a positive train control aspect. So different from some of the freight railroads that don't currently have it.
So it's sort of based on track-based as opposed to GPS-based or whatever?
Yeah, our current system is track circuit-based, so it's not a GPS system, which is a communication-based train control system. That might be the system you're thinking of, but yeah,
Well,
we're not there
I'm thinking of the one
yet.
that we read about in the newspapers all the time.
That is a communication-based train control system, so it's GPS-based.
Right.
And it's very necessary for the freight railroad system because of the geographic area that it covers, as opposed to our system, which is a very, relatively speaking, a very small geographic landscape.
This is the best system for our system.
This is the type of system that most transit systems, heavy rail transit systems use. And it's helpful for how we need to operate our service, and it provides that similar level of protection that you would see in the services that the freight railroads are providing. Or in some cases, that's also the service that Metra has to provide for their commuter rail services. They operate on the freight rail lines.
Any other questions? Can you give us a little bit more color in the process that we use, okay, for the B2?
I'm sorry, you want to know the procurement
Okay,
process? for
yes.
B2? Sure. We sent out a request for proposals, and we did get 2 bidders back, Kiewit and Ragnar Benson. We believe the reason for this is our tracks are a bit different than some of the others. So there are a limited number of bidders who can bid on this. We usually get 2 to 3 bidders who will bid on this. One group that usually bids, is Aldridge, but they are acting as a sub to Kiewit. So this is the number of bidders that we usually would get on an RFP
And
for
Kiewit
traveling.
used to be the one that used to
Kiewit
get-
was a bidder as well. We would usually get Kiewit, Ragnar Benson, sometimes we'd get Aldridge, sometimes we'd get Devane. And on this one, we know Aldridge is working with Kiewit. So having the 2 bidders is pretty norm. It's pretty much the norm. We think that there are a limited number of companies that are able to do this type of work on our tracks.
And can you explain us a little bit, okay, what 10% the DBE?
Sure. Mary Person, Director of Diversity. This is a really specialized project. Anytime signal is involved, it involves specialized electrical work, and so it limits the subcontracting opportunities. And so we did identify what possible subcontracting opportunities would be on this contract, and it would be things like some minor electrical work, not the specialized electrical work, but site prep and things like that. So we were able to pull those out and compare it against what DVEs are available to do the work.
Thank you. Any other questions? So let's move to the
Thanks, Bob.
C1. Any questions? Let's move to G1 and G3. Any questions? Finally, let's review contract H1. Any questions? No questions? Since there is no further business to come before this committee, may I have a motion to recommend approval of the omnibus?
So moves.
Second.
I have a second. Would the
One second.
secretary?
I think
Yeah, I'm sorry, I
First, we
didn't
need
put
to
them in.
place those contracts on the omnibus.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So we need that.
So move.
May I have leave to place this item on the omnibus for approval?
So move.
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
Since there is no further business to come before this committee, may I have a motion to recommend approval of the omnibus?
So move.
Second.
May I have a second?
Second.
Will the
Second.
secretary call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Yes.
Chairman Silva?
Yes.
The motion to approve the omnibus is approved with 6 yes votes.
Thank you.
Just need a motion to adjourn, sir.
Finally, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We are adjourned.
Steve, you're ready? Okay. Chairman, we're ready.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to call order the regular scheduled meeting of the Chicago Transit Board for September 9th. With the secretary call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mr. Robinson will not be here today. Mr. Irvine?
Here?
Mr. Youngblood?
Here.
Dr. Sen?
Here.
Ms. Alva Rosales?
Here.
Mr. Silva?
Here.
Chairman Peterson?
Here.
We have a quorum of the board present with 6 members, sir.
Our first order of business today is public comment. Greg?
Yes, sir. We have 3 public comment speakers today. I would ask them to please step forward. Ms. Cecilia Butler. I just saw, oh, there she is. Ms. Butler, please step forward. Going to go in the order that I was contacted. Ms. Lindsay Enid, please step right on up. And then Mr., I believe I have the name right, Kestutis Nakas. Mr. Nakas, please step up. And we'll start with Ms. Butler, and just to remind everybody that we ask each of the individuals to please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Let's wait for Ms. Nakas to sit down. Please speak right into the microphone. Ms. Butler, we'll start with you, please.
Yes, my name is Cecilia Butler, and I've been here before. In fact, it's been a while, but I have been here before. At least a minimum of 15 years ago when I first started coming. And my name is Cecilia Butler. I'm the president of the Washington Park Advisory Council and the Washington Park Residents Advocacy Council, a new organization. We are representing the people that live in Washington Park. I've been there well over 30 years, plus I went to day camp, and I'm sure a couple of you lived in the area, because you can't look like me and not have lived in Washington Park or close to it. So, our interest has been, and still is, the historic landmark on 55th Street, the Green Line L. And we've come with proposals over the course of time and articles. But you do have new leadership, kind of, co-leadership. And I wanted to introduce myself to let you know that there's a group of residents that have been interested in that location, which is the historic station built in 1893. And you cannot also identify yourself, which we do, as the Washington Park Historical Society, and not want to be part of that building. Over the course of time, the community has changed. Right now, between Keene Drive and Prairie on 55th Street, Garfield, what you don't own, meaning CTA, the University of Chicago, does, except for that station. And I woke up one morning within the past few weeks and said, uh-oh, I better let somebody know we're still here. And we still want access to that location. Now we have a little additional uses for that station, and that is to sell fruit, vegetables, to be a location where people can get fresh fruits, because where there was a grocery store next to that location, it's been now bought and transformed to something else. We, the community, have no idea. But there's no grocery stores on Garfield within, say, 4 blocks. So we are a desert, and we thought that, in fact, the community has been forming a community grocery store co-op, and that location came to mind, that we could sell and share fresh fruits and vegetables at that location, along with it being an historical site. We have lots of historical paraphernalia that we like to share with everyone.
We have to Ms. Butler, we need to wrap up fairly quickly. Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I'm not new. I have met the new person on the block, and I just would like to share with you some of our information that we've shared. I am in contact with, I can't think of his name right now, just saw him, and he's in the room. He told me the situation.
Gerald.
Gerald, yes. But I know we can do better than that, because, I wanted to congratulate you on the good work you've done for ex-offenders.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Butler. Our next speaker will be Ms. Lindsay Enid.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have a letter here. It's on behalf of myself. I'm the interim executive director of the North Center Chamber of Commerce. This letter has also been signed on to by the Lakeview and Lincoln Park Chambers of Commerce. I also have letters here from a number of local business owners in our area, as well as letters from the South Loop and Chinatown Chambers of Commerce. I will submit these, if that's all right with you, Mr. Longini, to you following.
Yes, I'll take them eventually.
All right, well, on behalf of the assembled Chambers of Commerce and business owners supporting the Crosstown Bus Coalition, we urge you to pay attention to calls for the reinstatement of the Lincoln Avenue bus route number 11 and the 31st Street number 31 bus, and to answer those calls. We stand with the many residents and business owners who relied on these bus routes and who have experienced serious negative impacts due to the removal of these transit lifelines. As advocates for small business owners in our communities, we are attuned to the needs and concerns of business owners in the area. Many of these business owners have expressed concern that their businesses have suffered in part due to the removal of these bus routes. Several have even had to close their doors. Chicago is nothing, as you know, without thriving business communities and key services in its neighborhoods. And in the wake of the elimination of these bus routes, an absence is strongly felt. Chicago is a city that prides itself and markets itself to the world as a city of neighborhoods. And we demand that the Chicago Transit Authority invest in the economic development of these neighborhoods by ensuring their accessibility via public transit. With an influx of new businesses, Lincoln Avenue has the potential to become a vibrant destination and bring in new clientele for the retailers and shops in that footprint. Along 31st Street, you will find historic neighborhoods brimming with exciting new life and great city assets like the local beach. In both cases, a variety of transit options will help increase interest, foot traffic, and income into the area and its local merchants, which in turn means more income for the city and the CTA, not to mention the added convenience for residents who rely on public transit. As chambers of commerce and business owners, we want to ensure economic opportunities for everyone in our neighborhoods, regardless of income or employment status, from small business owners to those seeking their first job in a while. And urging our city partners to reinstate essential public transit options is one of the ways we can do that. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we hope that you will make a decision that benefits all people and all our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Enoch. Our final speaker today will be Ms. Kęstutis Nakas.
Hi, thank you. I'm Kęstutis Nakas. I'm the artistic director of The Bridge, which is a new theater located at 643 West 31st Street. I was asked to speak today by Pastor Tom. The speaker that was scheduled, Ed Marzewski, had an emergency and couldn't be here. So I didn't really prepare any comments. Tom told me to speak from the heart. That's what I'm going to try to do. I think the biggest justification for having a 31st Street bus line is economic. I mean, I think if it doesn't lose money, then it's a no-brainer. I mean, as the speaker just said, I mean, the signs of vitality are all around us along 31st Street. New restaurants are opening, destination restaurants like Han 202, which came down from Evanston to be there. Maria's, which is a well-known local watering hole at the corner of Morgan, is expanding into a huge restaurant business, and we're starting our little theater there. Our theater doesn't have these big, ambitions economically. We just want to bring quality, professional-level theater to our neighborhood at movie ticket prices, and I think that's a key there too. I think when you realize that 31st Street stretches from that beach through the northern part of Bronzeville, past the southern part of Chinatown, into Bridgeport, which is growingly diverse and expanding, and it's really changed in the last 10 years since I've been there, and then all the way to the Arts Center at Morgan Street. I think it's for me, to have that link, to say that IIT students can jump on the bus and come straight to my theater and be an audience for these actors we're trying to support and bring culture to the area, it just feels right. It just seems right. And I think it's going to work. And I think with the growing interest in Bridgeport, it's just the right thing at the right time. I know there was resistance when the 35th Street line was extended west, and then the ridership proved that it was viable. I really believe the same thing's going to happen. So that's the economic justification. I think that's the biggest one, maybe the most persuasive one. I don't know if there's a moral justification too. I mean, there are 6 churches right along the route I'm talking about, which is just the section that goes Bridgeport to the beach. Those congregations, members of some are standing right behind me. A lot of the congregations are elderly. They don't have cars. They're not rich. You know, they need to have access to their churches, and it's a long way to walk from, say, 30th Street down to 35th and go across and then walk back up to get to your church. So I think it's not an economic thing, but it is a moral issue. It's let's help these religious congregations get to their church. The other one, I think,
Mr. Nakas, we need to wrap up fairly quickly.
Okay, very quickly. I have a 10-year-old son, and I know him and his friends want to get to the beach. That 31st Street beach is beautiful, and now kids, teenagers need to get to it. The well-being, quality of life issue is just gonna take off when that bus gets put in. Thank you for your time. Sorry to go over a little bit.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank all the speakers today for your comments, and that concludes the public comment section of today's meeting, Chairman Peterson.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business today is the approval of the August 12, 2015 board minutes that were previously distributed.
Move it.
Second.
Yes, and like at the committee, we need to change it to show that Director Irvine phone was via telephone, which I did not have in the minutes. So that will reflect it when we change it. Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez-Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes.
All right.
Yes.
The next order of business today is executive session. It is my understanding, Karen, that there will be an executive session.
Yes, we will have a short executive session pursuant to Section 2C11 of the Open Meetings Act.
Thanks, Karen. With that, I'll entertain a motion to recess into executive session based upon the reasons so stated by council.
Move it.
Second.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes.
Thanks. We're in recess.
Thank you. please silence your cell phones? Thank you.
I now entertain a motion to return to the board's open meeting.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Youngblood, second by Ms. Irvine?
Yeah.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes, and we're back in open session.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business, an executive session matter. Executive session item number 4A was discussed in executive session. I'd now like to have our general counsel summarize.
Thank you, Chairman. The board discussed the lawsuit of Andrew Kadulka and Nestor Flores versus representing the estate of Martha Gonzalez versus Frankie Miles, and the CTA, case number 2010-11637. This was a wrongful death case brought by the survivors of 37-year-old Maria Gonzalez, who died on October 13, 2009, after being run over by a CTA bus as she was crossing the street at 18th and Halsted. She was survived at the time by a 19-year-old son and a 4-year-old son. The case was scheduled for trial next month. Prior to trial, both sides agreed to mediate the case, and thereafter plaintiffs have agreed to take $4.3 million to resolve the case, which the law department is recommending.
Thanks, Karen. I now entertain a motion to approve a settlement recommendation of $4,300,000 for court case number 2010L011637, the case of Andrew Kadulka and Nestor Flores, independent co-administrators of the estate of Martha Gonzalez, deceased, versus Frankie Miles individually, and as an agent and/or employee of the Chicago Transit Authority, a municipal corporation. So I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
The motion to approve the settlement passes with 6 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. The next order of business is agenda item number 5A, a resolution setting the time of the November 2015 transit regular meeting. May I have a motion?
Move it.
Second.
Moved and seconded that this resolution would change the November 18th board meeting to 2:30 in the afternoon.
Right.
Mr. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion is approved with 6 yes votes on the resolution.
Our next order of business is a report from the Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget. Director Silva.
The Committee on Finance, Audit, and Budget met earlier this morning. The committee reviewed the finance report and approved the August committee minutes. The committee also reviewed and recommend for board approval the following: an ordinance for fiscal years 2015-2019 capital improvement program, and amending ordinance number 014-133, an ordinance authorizing a lease of retail concession space located at 5800 North Cumberland Avenue, Chicago, Illinois Blue Line, an ordinance authorizing a lease of retail concession space located at 150 West Congress Parkway, Chicago, Illinois Blue Line, an ordinance authorizing a lease of retail concession space located at 1114 South Dearborn Street, Chicago, an ordinance authorizing the acquisition of real property at 241 to 245 North Pulaski Road, Chicago, Illinois, an ordinance authorizing a 3-year intergovernmental agreement with the County of Cook regarding Rosemont Station Transit Center, and 8 purchase and sales award recommendations. The committee recommended approval of all these items and placed them on the omnibus for approval. That concludes my report, Chairman.
Thanks, Director Silva. May I now have a motion to approve the omnibus as stated by Director Silva?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Irvine?
Yes.
Mr. Youngblood?
Yes.
Dr. Sen?
Yes.
Ms. Alvarez Rosales?
Yes.
Mr. Silva?
Yes.
Chairman Peterson?
Yes.
That motion to approve the omnibus passes with 6 yes votes.
Thanks, Greg. Our next order of business is a construction report. Bob Whitman.
Good morning, Bob Whitman, VP Construction. So our report today, 5 projects, our traction power project at Kimball, Princeton, and State, 95th Street Terminal, the Wilson Transfer Station, track and structure, and our 2 track reconstruction projects, Ravenswood Loop Connector and the North Main Line Purple Line Express project. So the traction power work continues at all 3 of these substations, Kimball, Princeton, and State. Again, these are existing substations that are currently in service as we do this work. We've completed all the exterior work on the 3 of these buildings, so that work is done. There's interior facility work going on, plumbing work, mechanical work inside the building, painting work. So that work continues mainly at Kimball and State, pretty wrapped up at the Princeton substation. So the majority of the work remaining here is change out of the new equipment. It's electrically focused. So Kimball, we've completed the first lineup of new equipment, and that is online and providing power. The second lineup is also installed, but not yet tested, so they're working on getting that tested so we can energize that equipment and complete the work at Kimball. Similarly, at Princeton, first lineup is already done and online and in service, as is the second lineup there. So both new sets of transformers and rectifiers are online. Installation of the DC work now is ongoing at Princeton. And then finally at State, we have the first set of new equipment at State in service. There's 3 different lineups at State. It's a little larger substation. They're working on the second lineup and also working on the DC gear there. A few photos here, the new rectifiers and transformers at Princeton substation, as well as the new equipment there in the background at State, as well as some of the painting work going on interior there. State's a challenging facility. It's 2-story, a large facility with equipment in different sections of it, which makes the interior work a challenge as we try to change out equipment and do the facility work kind of at the same time. So,
Bob, got a question. What is the life expectancy of this new equipment? And then what kind of maintenance does it require once it's installed?
yeah, I would say life expectancy probably 25 to 35 years. Maintenance, I mean, there's regular maintenance. Our maintenance guys do regular substation maintenance on all our active substations. Breaker cleaning, regular cleaning, yearly cleaning on them, change out of breakers, check on testing, things of that nature. So,
And I know, almost every meeting we go through the installation of the work being done at substations. What percentage of that work has been complete throughout the system? Would you say you're at 75%, 80%, or in terms of substations?
oh boy, I'd have to get back to you on that one,
Okay.
Chairman. We've had new substations, which we just finished with our Farwell, Armitage, and Hill project, and we've had several retrofit projects. We have another retrofit project coming up with the Your New Blue for substation retrofit. So, but I can get you the data on kind of which ones have been changed out.
Yeah, no, it's great work. I was just wondering, the progress that we're making system-wide.
Right. I can get you that data.
Okay.
Moving on to 95th. So work continues on the foundation walls, both in the northeast and the northwest quadrants of the site. Right now, those walls on the north side of the existing terminal. Wall work on the southwest wall is now complete. Duct bank installation, we've completed all the duct bank work on the east side for the fiber lines and the IDOT utilities that have to go underneath 95th Street. And the jack and bore operation that we've spoken about previously has now moved on to the west side and is nearing completion on that side. Finally, procurement of the design build RFP is ongoing with proposals currently under review. A few photos here. Again, this is the duct bank work, the final piece of the duct bank work on the east side. That work is now completed, and they've moved over to the west side. restoring some of the shoulder along the Dan Ryan here on the southwest wall. Again, impacts on the highway there. And then this is the completed, now completed wall in the southwest quadrant. The previous photo was on the highway side of that wall. Moving on to Wilson Transfer Station. So work continues to go well at Wilson. We've completed 55 caissons or deep foundations in stage 1. There's only 5 remaining, which should be complete in the next 2 weeks. We've also started our structural steel installation, making really good progress on the structural steel. For stage 1, almost all structural steel is installed south of Wilson Avenue now. They also are doing temp shoring to support the steel erection. And we've started the concrete deck installation for track 1. So that's another big process as we get ready to pour the new concrete deck for track 1. So here's a photo of the new structural steel installation here. You can see new steel there to the left of that train. That's all new structural steel that will support the new track 1 that we're getting ready to pour later this fall. A little more close-up shot of the structural steel installation and some continued foundation work up on the further north on the site. Moving on to the track projects, Ravenswood Loop Connector track. Again, this project continues to go very well. We've completed 12 of the weekends that we had track scheduled for. We have some more work scheduled for this weekend to continue that track work as we move toward the south, toward the loop. Work this weekend will occur mainly toward the south part of the job between Chicago and the Mart. And we'll continue this work through the fall and wrap this one up shortly. And then a few photos here. Nice night photo here of the Mart here, getting close to the Mart. Contractor equipment putting in the third rail. Again, track work, all similar work on the weekends, just different sections of that alignment. Again, third rail installation here at Sedgwick. And finally, our other track project ongoing is the Purple Line Express track project between Lawrence and Jarvis. So this is mainly tire replacement with some new rail installation. This project started in late July, early August. Already about 25% complete. Mainly the work has been between Lawrence and Bryn Mawr to date on track 4. They've been working mainly nights when our Purple Line track is out of service. So minimal impacts to date, and progress is going well. A couple of photos here of equipment here changing out individual ties. That concludes my report. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Bob. Any questions for Bob?
One question. We talked a little bit about the Skokie shops in the yellow line. Do you have any further information as to whether the Skokie shops are doing all the work as they used to do, or have they slowed down or anything?
I mean, the shops continue to operate.
At full capacity?
Yes, again, with the line down and the trains not being able to access the shop, we've had to move some of the vehicles in via truck. So that's been one of the items that we've had to adjust to.
Good morning, Dave Kowalski, Interim Chief Operating Officer. As far as Skokie goes, there was a dip in production at the incident when Yellow Line did begin, but we've arranged for having a trucking company, and we are actually separating our rail cars and trucking them to our lower yard at 63rd so we can get access to in and out of the shop. So we did take a minor dip because we do have ongoing jobs. We're doing a 3200 overhaul program that is flush and is functional. We also had 34 trapped 5,000 trains, new cars, when the incident happened, which we're down to 13 sending back out to the field. So yes, we are doing okay. And additionally, we've diverted workforces out into the field from Skokie shops. That's their craft people that can do work instead of at Skokie up in the terminals, floor jobs, electrical jobs, things that you have to take their business somewhere else and do in the field.
So overall, train maintenance has not suffered too much?
No, not that much. It's inconvenient, but it's not, we're not falling behind.
Because I noticed that number of cars available for service had taken a slight dip.
Yes. Well, also remember too, we're retiring vehicles at the same time. We're retiring 2,600, so you will see the car count availability as far as the vehicles assigned will start dropping down.
That's for some of the reason.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Any other questions for Bob? All right, appreciate it. Thank you. Greg, is there any new business to come before the board?
No, sir.
Since there are no new business to come before the board, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.